All right, hello. Um, you may recall I just did a video on the 12th of June for Madonna, for a potential Madonna croquet date. Um, that was a swing and a miss. But what was interesting, what happened on um, the 12th of June, just gone by, was we had some warships show up in Cuba. Now, what is fascinating about the decode that I did is it was all to do with this scene in Back to the Future, and the reason why I picked Madonna out is because I'm always looking at Madonna, and what Marty's trying to do in this scene is he's trying to, well, at least what he does is he asks where a certain street is so that he can find Doc. He's trying to locate Doc's house in the past in 1955. So there's a good connection with Doc and Madonna, and so that was my theory there, right? But what this thing with the warships that's just happened in Cuba is pretty interesting to do with this scene. Okay, so we have the same date coming up, which is the block past Maypole decode that's in here, and that date is 43 days inclusive added on to Maypole, which is the 1st of May, May Day. Okay, so when you do that jump, it takes you to the 12th of June. So, and the 12th of June has some numerology that's associated with Doc's address as well, 164th day of the year, and Doc's address is 1640 Riverside Drive. And so, there was some interesting stuff pointing towards the 12th of June with this scene. Anyway, let me play you just a few seconds of this so you can see where I'm going with this idea with the warships, and it's it's kind of interesting anyway. Okay, so what we have is this bit when he's just coming down the stairs to meet the grandparents, sort of thing. So I'll play this.
Excuse me?
I guess you're a sailor, aren't you? That's why you wear that life preserver.
I guess you're a sailor. That's why you wear that life preserver. Okay. I don't know if they say when were you last in port or something earlier on in the scene or something. I felt like they did actually. Hang on, let's go back a little bit. Hang on.
How long have you been in port?
How long have you been in port? I don't know if you caught that, but how long have you been in port? So there's this reference to Marty being a sailor and being in port. Okay, now those ships have just come into port. Okay, in Cuba. Now what's fascinating is when they sit down and he asks for the address, Marty um, makes the reference of JFK to do with the to do with the streets. Okay, so you'll know that. I mean, obviously, if you're watching my channel, you've already probably seen my last decode, and you are probably pretty familiar with Back to the Future anyway. So there's that JFK reference with the sort of where he sort of does the sort of gun symbolism as well. Well, this whole idea of these ships coming into port in Cuba, and everybody's talking now about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and of course, who was president during that time? JFK. So there's this nice tie back with ships coming into port here and JFK, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Are we going to see another? Well, are we seeing another crisis develop here? I don't know. Anyway, a couple of other little connections, right, with the sailor thing, right? Because I've mentioned before, there's Mickey Mouse references in Back to the Future. There's with a lot of my decodes, I talk about the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which is it's actually the clock tower. And you have to go back, just watch some old videos on that, on Blumenau. I don't even know what the videos are called, but they're there in the past several months now. I've been referring to the clock tower as the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse because it has symbolism to do with Mickey Mouse in it. Mickey Mouse's birthday's there. Pluto's potential birthday is there, along with some interesting balancing numbers for Pluto. And so, again, the Looney Tune connection with Back to the Future, or at least the characters or people in Back to the Future, doesn't stop just there. But we also have Michael J. Fox, who is the 9th of June birthday, sharing that birthday with Donald Duck, okay, 9th of June. Now, I don't know what to say other than this duck is named Donald, okay, and obviously when a ship rocks in to Cuba with the 454 on it, with the 45 there, obviously Donald Trump springs to mind as the 45th president, and the idea of Donald Duck and Marty, being tied together now, with the birthday, and then that scene, with Marty coming into port and Marty maybe on some level is also a symbol for Donald Trump. It's just fascinating connections. I don't know what else to say about it. What does it mean? Who the hell knows? I will say this much though. Yeah, the sailor, the duck sailor, and Marty being referenced as the sailor, and the sort of voyage home, that Odysseus has to make that voyage. Now I'm going back to 2001 now, A Space Odyssey, and then I'm going back to Odysseus and the Odyssey, where he's trying to get home, and now he's only, well, however many miles Cuba is from the US, not very far away now. He's almost home, so to speak. So that voyage is maybe coming to an end. Kind of ominous, but um, that was my thoughts with the whole idea of these ships almost back home. Yeah, I know they're Russian ships. I know they're not really coming back home to America. What I'm saying is the symbolism there. Okay, the idea. Okay. Yeah. What else do I want to say? There was something else. I've forgotten what it was now. Oh, this number on the side of the boat here. So that number, 454. When you see a 45 or a 54 together, or a 44 and a 55 together, well, the 44 and 55, those two numbers. What's interesting about those two numbers is they're encoding the pi cycle. I've got I know I've got the 3 cycles. There's 3 cycles. There's Fibonacci, and so if you see a 1-1 or an 88, that is Fibonacci, yeah. And the start and end of Fibonacci is 911. Those are the numbers at the end and start of the cycle. So 911 is the beginning and the end of the Fibonacci cycle, and what balances those numbers is 988. So anytime you see a 1-1 and an 8-8, those numbers are to do with Fibonacci, and potentially are referencing 9/11. Okay, so you see an 88, it can potentially be referencing 9/11 directly. Okay, the same goes for 44 and 55. These are numbers at the I say they're numbers at the beginning and end of the cycle, but these are balancing numbers. Each cycle has a double set of numbers, and 44 and 55 are in what I call the pi cycle, which just starts 3, 1, 4, etc. Okay. Lucas numbers. When we look at Lucas numbers, it also has a double set of numbers in there that balance each other, and that is 2, 2, and 7-7. Okay, so 2 and 7, 27. Those two numbers, or 77 and 22, those are numbers to do with that cycle. Okay, I just thought it was interesting with that, and the Hoover Dam has an awful lot of connections to pi. The dollar bill has an awful lot of connections to pi on it. So seeing that 454 there again, it's another, just to me, it just references that cycle and some of the balancing numbers that were within that cycle. If we were going to look at a date, an interesting date would probably be with that cycle, with the beginning and end of that cycle would be 731, around the 31st of July. Actually, would be an interesting date, because those numbers tie in around the beginning and end of that cycle. Not to mention tons of other numbers as well, but I'm going to leave it there for the video. I don't really want to whiffle waffle on about potential number jump dates. There is a couple of nice number jumps with that 454 days, and actually, if you do 454 days this year from a date, because we're in a leap year this year, if you minus 366 off of here for the leap year, you will get 88. So 1 year and 88 days. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to leave it at that though. There are a couple of interesting number jumps, but we'll just leave it for today on the numbers. I just wanted to really show you that connection between Marty, Donald Duck, both being kind of having the sailor symbolism, this idea of ships coming back into port, trying to find their way home. This is what Odysseus is trying to do, in the Odyssey. He's got a 10-year voyage trying to get home, and so I just thought this was interesting that these ships are fairly close to what the story with Pluto and everything. The idea of Pluto getting home is getting back to the United States. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Leaving it there. Hope you enjoyed that. It wasn't quite Madonna croaking it, but it was something that tied back in with JFK, and it did tie to that date, and it kind of ties to Back to the Future there, I think. So anyway, and it also ties to Donald Trump. So all right, thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.